This episode is brought to you by CBD TV, your one-stop shop for all your CBD needs. Use code FRESHOUT to get 15% off your next order. So you're arrested by the marshals, you're looking at federal time. Do you have the resources to get a private attorney, even though you know you're guilty, or do you go with a public pretender, or what's the situation?
I mean, they grabbed all the money I had in the bank. You know, there was 4 or 5 accounts. They grabbed all that money. You know, because I'd been caught so many times and gotten out of it, I was just arrogant enough to believe that I was never going to get caught. So I put no money away. You know, everybody's like, oh, you put money away. And no. Or, you know, they're like, what are you talking about? Drug dealers even know eventually they're going to get caught, and they typically put some money away. And they're like, you weren't that smart? No, I wasn't. I was that arrogant, that stupid, that 100% confidence that I was going to get out of whatever came my way. And, you know, I just didn't have any money. I mean, you know, they seized everything, and even then, if you get a private lawyer and he wants $100,000, how am I going to pay him $100,000? Where am I going to tell everything I'm doing is fraud? So there's no way for me to even get a private attorney $100,000 in cash because. So
at the end of the day, what was that female's reasoning for telling on you? I mean, had you fell out with her too, or what?
No, you know, honestly, like I never got the real reason. Here's what I surmise that. She'd actually talked to my girlfriend at the time about me possibly getting her pregnant because she wanted to have a kid. And my girlfriend had a kid, and she liked my girlfriend. Like she was gay or bisexual. And I think she thought, if I just get rid of him out of the picture, I can be with the girl's name was Amanda, with Amanda, and I'll get rid of him and we can have our little family with her son. And I mean, I'm assuming, I don't know.
But they were living off of you.
Yeah. One of them's living with me, and Trina's coming over every once in a while.
Yeah.
You know, periodically. She's coming a couple times a night. And so, is that it's possible that that's the reason? I don't know. You know, and honestly, you know, if you see the way the story unravels, I'm not in a position to judge her. She thought she did the right thing. Whatever her reason was, that's totally up to her. You know, God bless her. She's a good citizen. Look, to me, you know, I'm doing dirt. I'm committing bank fraud. I'm causing normal people that are just own their houses. I've caused them to have to get lawyers, to be put in a horrible position. So anything that happens to me as a result of that, then I got coming. And I don't have the right to bitch about it. You did what you thought was right. I was upset at the time. I'm not now.
So what kind of deal did they try to offer you?
There was no deal, bro. There was no deal. The deal was go to trial. Go to trial and
they already know. Yeah, they got so much stacked on you.
Right.
Yeah.
They're like, look, when they said my lawyer's advice was, if they stack the charges, you're looking at 154 years. Now, and I was like, what? They can't do that. She goes, they can't do that. She goes, listen, the most you can really get is 32 years. I filled out some paperwork. I signed some papers and put it in and got some money. What are you talking about? How can I get 32 years? And you know, I didn't hurt anybody's feelings. Like, how you count? That's not possible. And she's like, oh, it is possible. It is possible. She said, so your only avenue is to cooperate. And she said, you know, you cooperate. She goes, everybody involved in your scam in Tampa has cooperated because I've been gone 3 years.
Oh, they don't already.
They've already. Yeah. And look, and they're all, you know, these are not street guys. These are not guys that are trying to live by some, you know, code.
There is no code.
Yeah, not that I even believe there's a code. I was going to say, I don't even believe there's a code on the street because I've seen so many guys roll over on each other. There are some guys, you know.
Well, I mean, you said your best friend told on you. I mean.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
I mean, what kind of friend is that?
Yeah, I know. Look, you know, and I still talk to him to this day, and I don't even know that he knows that I know. I mean, he knows it. I never bring it up. I never bring it up. Did what you had to do. You felt it was the right thing to do. You have a kid.
I don't know. I couldn't throw my friend under the bus, though.
Yeah.
It's not, I'm the one who got caught or ride my own beef.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. It's just, it's a different, first of all, and it's, these aren't street guys. There's no, at him.
So you don't feel really bad that he told you kind of like let bygones be bygones
Right.
in that
Well,
sense?
here's the thing. The other thing is too is that if street guys tell on each other, there's a chance they'll get killed. Nobody in the mortgage industry is killing each other. I talked. As a matter of fact, I talked to pretty much everyone that cooperated against me. I still talk to. I talked to them. Some of them, for instance, this one girl went to prison. That really all she did was walk in and sign some papers, and she went to prison. She felt so bad about it, and when I was on the run, she actually turned herself in. She was on American Greed, and they interview her, and she felt so bad, and she knew they were coming at some point, and I was on the run, and she's like, I just felt so bad about it. I knew they were coming at some point, so she goes and she turns herself into the FBI and says, I just want to plead guilty and go to jail and get it over with.
That's why some people just need to work. I tell you guys, get a job.
Oh, absolutely.
You just get a job. I mean, at the end of the day, but that's crazy. That's pretty crazy. But
Well, so what ends up happening is basically she's like, look, go in, talk to the FBI, talk to the Secret Service, tell them everything you did, cooperate, and you're going to get 10 or 12 years, and you'll be able to get your time knocked off of that if these people get indicted. I said, listen, I don't want to do the time, whatever you want to call me, snitch, rat, pussy, bitch, whatever. I don't give a shit. I'll live with it, but I don't want to do the time. And so I go in. They say, look, this is what we know. They stand, what a 302 is, an FBI 302. It's the interview. They give me
I don't know what it is because I never told on nobody.
Well, they give you a stack of papers. This is what everybody told on you already. You're done. And they're like, so what happened? I'm like, man, this is what happened. I did this. The appraiser knew this. This happened. The title person this. So we go through it. And they know all that. What happens is I get 26 years. I think I'm getting 12. I get 26. The government asks me to be interviewed by, Dateline. Be interviewed by Dateline. We'll consider it substantial assistance. That's not substantial assistance. Substantial assistance is you cooperate against someone and that
results in an indictment conviction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know this. I don't know anything about this. They go, we'll consider it substantial assistance. Okay, great. So I go in, I'm interviewed by Dateline. The night before my sentencing, my lawyer says, I said, look, are they going to reduce my sentence? 5K1. Are they going to give me 5K1? What's going on? What's happening? And she goes, no, they're not. But don't worry, I'm going to argue these enhancements. You're not going to get that much time. You're going to end up with 10 or 12 years. And then eventually these people will get indicted and they'll cut your sentence. You'll get a Rule 35. And so I go, okay. So I go in. She doesn't win the arguments. I get 26 years. I go to the medium because I have 23 years to go with gain time. I still got 23 years. I go to the medium. Guys are getting stabbed. First day I'm there, lockdown. Guys are getting stabbed left and right. It's fucking, there's gangs, there's.
What medium were you at?
Coleman Low. Mm-hmm. And that's not like a California prison. Or, not prison, but like a California federal prison even. Because, it's different. Like you have.
Well, yeah, because if you would have went to like Atwater or Victorville USP without no paperwork, you would have been
well, first of all, my points weren't high enough for me to go to a P. So you start off with a medium. Right.
Low. You said a low.
No, I went to a medium.
Okay.
Because I had 23 years. You can't go to a low unless you're under 20.
Yes, right.
So I go there. I show up. My paperwork actually looked good because there were no arrests.
There was no.
So I could give you my PSI. But I remember a guy asked me for my paperwork, and I don't really understand what's going on. I give him my paperwork. He goes, oh, you're good. He's like, yeah, you didn't tell on anybody. I said, oh, no. I said, well, that's not true. And he goes, what? I said, yeah. I said, this is what happened. Everybody told on me, and that's it. So I did. I said, I actually sat down with the FBI and Secret Service. And he's like, oh, bro, I wouldn't be telling nobody that. And I said, well, that's what it is. He's like, oh, you're going to have some problems here if you tell people that. Now, I didn't have to tell anybody that because the newspaper came out because I'd also bribed a public official. I bribed a guy named Kevin White in Florida and got him elected as a county, on the, not the county commission, but the, whatever, like a commissioner. So I got him elected as a commissioner. I pumped about $20,000 into his campaign and actually got him elected. But before he could help me rezone a bunch of properties, I took off on the run. Well, the FBI was looking into him. So the FBI, there's a story comes out as soon as I get to Coleman saying that I'd bribed this official and that I was cooperating. So now so that's everywhere in the medium. I get thrown in SEG, in the shoe for 45 days. They say, look, what do you want to do, Cox? Do you want us to move you to another place? What do you want to do? I said, I want to go back. I want to go back. My mother lives down the street. She comes to see me every 2 weeks. I said, so I want to go back there. You're going to have a hard time. I said, well, then I'll have a hard time. If I get beat down or something happens, I said, and I said, look, half the guys on this fucking compound cooperated. They're just lying about it. And the guy from SIS goes, it's actually higher than that. He said, yeah, you're right, but okay. He said, we'll let you out. You know what a strong man agreement is? You can sign a strong man agreement saying you know that you're in jeopardy. You know that there's a possibility that you're in jeopardy. So I was like, I'll sign a strong man agreement. He goes, no. He said, we'll just let you out. He said, let us know if you have any problems. I said, all right. I go back out. No problem. I go back out. I actually have a guy from like the, they don't call them the like ABs, but basically they are. And this guy comes up to me one day and I'm walking across the compound. And at this point I work as a GED tutor and I'm teaching the real estate class. The ACE courses. So I'm teaching the ACE courses. So a lot of guys actually like me. They want me to be there. Because these guys are thinking we're going to get out and flip houses and they don't really give a shit. So, and there's not a lot of white guys there. Very few white guys. So this guy comes up to me and goes, hey, Cox. And I go, yeah, this guy's never talked to me. And I go, yeah, what's up? And he says, hey, I just want to let you know, we read that article and you can't walk the yard no more. And I went, okay. I said, well, I'm going to eat chow tonight and I'm going to go out to the yard and whatever happens, happens. And he goes, no, we ain't playing. I said, I understand. I said, and if I get the shit kicked out of me, I said, well, I get the shit kicked out of me. That's just what happens. I said, but I'm not going to do the next 20 some odd years being chased around. And he goes, man, I don't give a shit what you fucking did, bro. He goes, that's what Bubba told me to tell you and I just told you. I don't give a shit if you go out to the yard or not. He just walks off. Wow. So it's not.
Yeah, it's not like what
it's not what Wes, the places that you guys have been.
Yeah.
Oh, hell no. No. But then again, I don't commit those kinds of crimes. I mean, I have no violent crime. So they sent me to this medium, which is, things are happening, but I'm like a non-enemy combatant. It's happening around me. These guys don't want anything to do with me, but they're not bothering me. So,
plus you're educating people in there.
Right. Guys are coming to me with legal work. Matt Cox, can you read this? What does this mean? I'm like, it's this. You got to write your lawyer. Do this, do that. You got to talk to this guy who does legal work, get him to do this. And I'm helping guys. And I'm teaching GED. I'm teaching the real estate class. And I honestly, other than one or two times when guys are sitting at a table with me, other white guys are sitting at a table with me, and maybe one of these AB kind of guys come over and go, well, we want you to know you're sitting with a fucking cooperating witness. And if you ever want our back, if you ever want us to have your back, you can't be sitting with him. And I'd had two guys get up and fucking leave. But they didn't tell me to leave. You see what I mean? The other place, one, if I was sitting there at all, which was probably unlikely, the very least, I'm the one getting up and leaving. You can go eat in your cell. But that didn't happen.
So you didn't have any other problems on that compound?
Never had any more problems on that compound. Was there for 3 years, and then I left there and went to the low. So I go to the low. Well, the low is 50% sex offenders. Okay, even the guys that weren't there for sex crimes typically had one in their past.
Wow.
Or
federal sex crimes, huh?
Huh?
Federal sex crimes.
Yeah. Well, and you know what a federal sex crime is? You're looking at pictures.
Yeah.
You didn't touch a kid.
Yeah.
You're looking at dirty. You're just a weirdo. You know what I'm saying? Like they're perverts. And so you go there, but there are guys there. There was a guy there that used to work at NASA. There was a guy there there were guys there that were brilliant. There was 4 or 5 lawyers on the compound.
Yeah, that just tells you what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there were pilots there, lawyers. There's CPAs. There's guys that owned insurance company. I mean, it was. Well, look, the other 50% of the people that were there were either semi-high profile or had cooperated, or if they hadn't cooperated, they went to trial, those are the guys you knew were solid.
So the guys who are actually sex offenders are housed in a more laid-back environment.
Absolutely. Yeah, that way you can't send them to the medium. You can't send them to the pen.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, they'd beat them to death. I mean, they'd never make it in the pen. They might be in the medium. They'd have one or two of them, but they never left the unit.
Yeah.
Like as soon as they called last call, like 2 or 3 guys would leave.
Jet out real quick and jet back. Yeah.
Straight in, straight back to the unit.
Wow.
So so I went to the low, and I go to the low, and I've got 20-something years to go. And so after the 20, as time progresses, I start to realize that they're not going to, first of all, nobody gets indicted. So all the people that I cooperate against and cooperate against me,
nothing.
No indictments. So at this point, the entire economy is melting down. So this is by this 2008, 2009, why am I going after a 5-year-old bank fraud crime of a few $1 million when we should be focusing on this $400 million bank fraud?
Bernie Madoff type stuff.
Right, or $65 billion. Yeah. So why are we going to go after this historic one when we've got current ones that are melting down? So what happens is I start to write stories, and because I realize I'm done. I mean, this is it. You're going to do 20 years. My out date was 2030. So I'm going to be here till 2030. That's just the way it is. I mean, the government's not going to, I go to my lawyer, my public defender, I say, look, what's happening? Why am I still here? When are they going to do something? She starts crying on the phone. When your lawyer's crying,
ain't nothing happening.
You got problems.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm like, yeah, but you said this, and what about Dateline? What about, and then also they came to me and they said, we want you to be interviewed by American Greed. So they take me.
So they actually, the federal officials are ones setting up these interviews.
The U.S. attorney name was Gail McKenzie. She was asking me she'd been contacted by American Greed, and they said, we'd like to interview you, but we really want to interview Cox too. If you could help get us Cox, then we could do a whole thing. And she wanted the media attention.
Of course.
And her argument for that was that it helps dissuade people from committing fraud, to see what happened to this guy. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't know how true that is, but whatever. So they take me to the assistant warden's office or warden's office. I sit in there for 2 days and talk to them on the phone. They didn't use much of what I said. At that point, I'm trying to justify what I've done. Wasn't that bad? It wasn't this.
Kind of rationalize all the time.
Yeah, you go through. Well, I don't know about you. I went through that whole thing. You go in with one kind of mentality, and then I got in. And I just started thinking, I have a friend in prison that used to say this all the time. You cannot go to prison and leave prison thinking in the same manner that got you there, mm-hmm. and not expect to go back. Mm-hmm. And for him, he'd been locked up 20 years. For him, it was more than just committing crimes. It's not about committing crimes. It's just your overall thought process. I can dick this person over or not live up to my obligation on this. I can do this. I can say this, and it won't catch up to me. And it's like, okay, well, you're just a scumbag now. Well, it's not illegal. Yeah, but you're a scumbag. And it will lead to illegal things. Mm-hmm. So I go in and they asked me to be American Greed, do American Greed. I do American Greed. Now I've been interviewed by Dateline and American Greed. About a year later, and of course they don't do anything. It airs. They're not doing anything. They go, yeah, this is actually what she said twice. Well, the first time
the
was
U.S. attorney.
The U.S. attorney. My attorney calls and says, so are you going to reduce the sentence? He did the 2 interviews. Will you reduce the sentence? And she comes back and says, she goes, you said you'd consider it substantial assistance. And she said, yeah, I know, and I did. And it's not. She goes, I've considered it. And it's just not enough. And she goes, well, what else can he do? She's like, well, I don't know what he can do. My attorney goes to the judge at one point, talks to the judge in my case. And the judge...
Your public attorney?
Yeah.
Wow, she's doing a lot of work.
Yeah, well, she was... Here's what happened. I mean, she was a very nice person. She was actually in front of him. Another prisoner was being sentenced. And after he got sentenced, another defendant had been sentenced, the judge says, can I talk to you? And she goes, sure. So she goes back and he goes, what's going on with Matt Cox? And she said, what do you mean? And he goes, well, he said, I gave this guy 26 years for a white collar crime. He said, I was led to believe he was going to be coming back and be resentenced. And she said, well, yeah, but it didn't happen. Nobody was indicted, and he's done all of these interviews, but the government won't reduce his sentence as a result of them. And so he's like, and she's like, he goes, well, what's he doing about it? And she goes, well, what can he do about it? And he goes, well, I can't tell you what he should do about it. What I can tell you is he needs to do something. And she was like, so she actually tells me this. She sends me a letter. I call. That's the conversation. And I go, what does that mean?
Yeah. What's the code for it?
What else am I going to do? And she goes, I don't know. Maybe something will come up. So then a year later, U.S. attorney, a guy contacts my lawyer and the U.S. attorney and says, look, all mortgage brokers have to take so many continuing education hours every year to keep their license. 3 hours is taught on ethics and fraud. We would like Mr. Cox to write, he owned a mortgage company. He's done almost every real estate scam out there. We would like him to help us write an ethics and fraud course. He flies up to Atlanta. He meets with the U.S. attorney. She says, absolutely. She says it in writing. We got the email. I will reduce his sentence if he helps do this course.
Wow.
Guy comes to see me 2 or 3 times. I write a 9,500 word course. It was being used to help teach more nationally. It's being used to teach continuing education for ethics and fraud. And after about 6 months, she hadn't moved to reduce the sentence, hadn't filed the Rule 35. So my lawyer puts in a motion and to her and sends her a letter, and she finally eventually catches up with her, like in the elevator or something, and she goes, it's just not enough.
Well, after she put it in writing?
And here was the problem. Eventually, I end up going to a lawyer by the name of Frank Amadeo. Frank Amadeo is this is insane, bro. This is like, he is a rapid cycling, he was an inmate, disbarred lawyer. He's a rapid cycling bipolar with features of schizophrenia. Since Frank has been in his, probably a little earlier than his teens, he believes that God is telling him he is preordained to be emperor of the world, that his destiny is to conquer the world and he will be emperor. He's a lawyer. Disbarred, but he's in prison. He got 22 years after plotting a coup in the Congo. Listen, that's the story that the book I came out with.
Okay.
It's called.
We'll do a whole little separate thing on that too. Yeah.
But this is how insane this guy is, though. So I meet him, I've been hearing, but I also hear he's crazy. And my buddy's like, you got to go talk to Frank. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? How am I going to talk to Frank? Frank's crazy. And I had talked to a couple lawyers on the street and said, look, how can I force the government to do this? All of them came back and said, you can't force them to do it. So none of those sane lawyers are telling me it's possible. So I go in, I go to Amadeo and I say, look, I did this, and this. What can I do? And he goes, oh, no. He goes, they can't do that. I'm going to make them give it to you. And I went, how? These other lawyers, are they? And he goes, oh, no. He said, I can force them to do this. I will file the paperwork. I will take care of it. Don't you worry about it. We're going to make this happen. He files the paperwork. By the way, his whole crew is all sex offenders. Like, he's got sex offenders doing legal work for him, typing up motions.
Like his whole little offices.
He's got a law firm in prison. A medium-sized law firm of these. They're doing everything. They're handling divorces.
Wow.
It's amazing. Guys call him the emperor. He walks around there like, emperor. He's like,
oh shit.
But he's also walking guys out the door.
Yeah.
So is he insane? Yeah, he's insane.
But he knows his shit.
He knows his shit. So what happens is he does the paperwork. He files the paperwork. You file it, they come back, you come back, they come back. And eventually, he basically says, he argues that every time they ask me to do something, they reset, because I was time barred. the 1 year time bar. So he says
Oh,
it
yeah, for
resets the
2250,
time bar.
Exactly.
Reset the time bar. So he says, no, every time they asked him, it reset the time bar. And he had an argument for that. Eventually, the U.S. attorney comes back after arguing, and she says, okay, look, I'll put in the motion, I'll give you 1 level. You can go argue in front of the court, because the truth is, nothing you told us led to an actual indictment. Nothing. So I can't file anything technically, but I'll file a 1 level, and you can see what happens with the judge. Go back in front of the judge. We argue in front of the judge. I say I want 15 years off. Government says they want to give me 30 months off. Judge says 30 months isn't nearly enough for what this man's done. He goes, in 15 years, he goes, that was never going to happen, Mr. Cox. I was like, holy shit. And he goes, so he gave me 3 levels off. It was 7 years. So it was 7 years, bro. I mean, I went from 26 years to 19 years. So jump in the van, go all the way back. And I never forget what Frank said to me. Frank goes, when I came in, I said, Frank, I mean, I was hoping for 15, 16 years off. I mean, I got 7. It's not that I'm not appreciative. I appreciate it, but it's not what I was thinking. And I remember Frank goes, we're going to have to eat this elephant 1 spoonful at a time. He's crazy.
Wow.
I just remember thinking.
This guy was just someone.
He goes, don't worry, something will come up.